We've done quarterbacks and we've done running backs. Now let's get into wide receivers here. I got 20 wide receivers, number one prospects for 20 years straight. And the great thing about this one turned out to be we didn't have to deal with some of the issues that we have had to deal with when it came to running backs and quarterbacks where players were getting cut. You know, last video I had to do the 25 years of running backs because I had 5 running backs get cut. But this one, 20 wide receivers, none of them got cut. So thankfully, we get to sit here and go through 20 wide receivers' careers. We got the first receiver here. We ended the last video with an SMU running back, and we start this one with an SMU wide receiver. We had that problem go away for this video with the cutting of players, but I felt like it raised another issue that I had, and something that I have worried about with these other positions as we go through them. And if you want to see these other positions, it's that when I ran through this the first time around and I had to go through and hop into the games, obviously, and watch the key moments, straight up, the players that we were watching just weren't getting the ball, and that was frustrating. Even when they were the number one, number two receivers, I just couldn't get them to have the ball in their hands. The quarterbacks just wouldn't throw it their way. And, you know, when we were watching the quarterbacks, they always have the ball in their hands. When you're watching the running back, the starting running back's going to get majority of the carries. Wide receiver, I mean, if he's open, he's open. If he gets the target, he gets the target. It's kind of no guarantee that he's going to get the football. So there's going to be occasions where when we're hopping into games, I'm going to play a couple of snaps just so we can see the receivers in action. I'm going to force feed them the ball a little bit. So you can let me know as we go through the video if you want to see me kind of hop in and play more and, you know, use some of these players, or would you rather me kind of just pull it back to how it was previously and just say, hey, whatever happens, happens. Don't influence the game. Don't influence the statistics or anything. I didn't do it a bunch, but a couple of the players I did want to see and I did want to utilize, so some of them were pretty fun. As we're advancing, we gotta go through these first couple of seasons pretty fast because we have to get these guys out there and on teams progressing to the points where they can be starting players. When it comes to what games we're going to hop in, we're only going to hop in if of a playoff game if the player is actually a starter. If he's like the number 4 or 5 receiver, there's not going to be a point in hopping in the game. And I know with the progression, obviously I will show the progression on the screen when it comes to their true overalls. For those who haven't watched, I just need to specify the true overall is the overall the player without coach boost. And you can see right here, Dan Rimp was an interesting one. He was the 4th ranked player in the nation, 5-star player, no bust, 73 overall. Now, he does have star development, but just a 73 overall for a top 5 player in the nation who's not a bust is really interesting. So we're going to see what he can become. Also, though, on the screen, you can see I'm putting where they are on the depth chart because just kind of give you relative to what the production is. You know, if a guy gets 1,000 yards as a number 3 receiver, that's going to be, you know, a little bit different than if you're getting 900 and 1,000 yards as a number 1 receiver. The expectations go up, and you can see as we've already gotten through here, Philip Aquanu is going to be an 89 overall in his final season. The elite development hasn't pushed him past that 90 overall mark, but he still is a pretty decent receiver. Thomas Hickson is doing all right so far. He's steadily going up, but he hasn't done a whole lot in his career up until this point. And I'm interested to see what variants that we get here. Quarterback and running back was very different, and I want to see how different receivers are from running back. You know, I went into the running back video expecting one thing, and something completely different happened. I said in that running back video, if I do receivers, well, how much different is it really going to be? And I was pleasantly surprised in some aspects of how different the wide receivers were. I mean, already a big difference between them and the running backs is, you know, 5 running backs got cut, no wide receivers got cut. So that's already going to be a big difference that we are going to see. All these receivers at least got some sort of an opportunity to finish out a career here. And the next wide receiver, Robert Capps, looks pretty okay. I mean, nice speed, good agility, really good spec catch. You can see Iguanu, he finished out his career with just about 2,000 yards and 18 total touchdowns, so nothing special. SMU obviously isn't some perennial playoff contender. And while Hickson is struggling, look at Dan Rimpf with a big-time season, 1,200 yards. Iguanu, he gets picked in the 3rd round. I think that's pretty okay for what he was able to put out and his overall talent. Capps goes to Alabama. Hickson, big time jump for him. He's going to be our first 90-plus true overall wide receiver, and he's looking pretty good, even though he struggled to this point. I mean, he took a big jump, so you're anticipating him to have a big season, and we're going to see what the first opportunity to see one of these wide receivers in action is. We got Dan Rimpf going up here for And 82, I mean, he put up a really nice season despite not being an overall, so I would have thought maybe he'd jump a little bit more, but 82 overall, I mean, he's gone up 9 overalls in his career, so that's pretty solid. He just had such a low starting point. Jalen Marcus here now getting some progression at Miami. He looks like he could be a pretty fun player if he continues to grow, and we'll see if Miami can get themselves into a playoff appearance. But I'm just waiting for the opportunity to get into a game, and we have Robert Capps. Now, he's going to be an elite dev player, so, I mean, we've already had a couple of elites. Surprisingly, we've already also had an impact, with Hickson being an impact player, but, I mean, there's still some really nice players, and even though Hickson is an impact, you can say definitely it was a success getting him to the overall that he got. We have Sidney Finley, who's going to fulfill our first gem receiver, and he looks unbelievable. He can jump, spectacular catch, speed, size. He has it all, and we finally have some playoff appearance here. It's going to be Clemson. Miami also made it. Clemson handled USC pretty easily. The thing with Miami, though, is Jalen Marcus isn't at the point where he is one of the top receivers on the team. He's still kind of getting better, but you can see Dan Rimp had a really big playoff game, and he is outplaying his overall. Clemson also does get to take care of Louisiana in the second round. Quite a easier matchup for them, and they're going to be easily cruising to another playoff victory. And Rimp had a massive game once again. He's having a legendary playoff run. Game is finally close enough for us to get some playing time as we throw one down the field. It's going to be incomplete, and it's going to be 2nd down and 10. Villa to throw, and he's got Rimp, and he's got separation, and he's got the grab. Can he make the run? No, not quite, but he sets them up in the red zone. 30 seconds to play. It's going to be 1st down and 10 inside the 15. Throwing, that's going to be Rimp, and he has it in the end zone. That's going to be a touchdown for Clemson. And I am playing on Heisman difficulty, and all the playing that you see is, I'm not doing any playing off camera to manipulate the stats or anything. I am strictly just playing a couple of snaps to throw the receiver the football, but we get the interception here, and Clemson's going to pull off the victory, and it's going to be another big-time game for Rimp. 3 straight 100-yard performances in the playoffs, and now it's going to be 23-16. It's going to be Washington with the football, down by 7 with just little time to go, under a minute to play in the national championship. Throwing on 3rd down, looking for a big play, and it's going to be intercepted. And maybe I scored that 1 touchdown with Rimp, but the defense with 2 interceptions and back-to-back games to seal it. And already we got a national championship victory here for Clemson as Rimp. I mean, I threw him 2 passes. That's all I did. Everything else was all him. He had a legendary playoff run. What a spectacular performance, a spectacular season. And Hickson, he disappoints, but Rimp has made up for it in just a spectacular way. What a season for him. Marcus, as kind of the number 4 option, was okay. And Hickson still does get drafted pretty high because of his overall. How about one of the biggest recruiting upsets that I have seen? Sidney Finley is going to North Texas. I don't know what North Texas did to get this dude, because he is an absolute monster. He's 79 overall, elite dev player, who is the number 2 prospect in the nation. He's going to North Texas. And what's even maybe more crazy is this is the biggest overall jump I have seen. We have Dan Rimp going from an 82 to a 96 overall. What in the world is going on here? That is ridiculous. I can't figure out what's more crazy. Now we have Jalen Marcus going up, and he's going to be at the point where he's going to be one of the starting receivers, so that's going to be good for him. If Miami can get into the playoffs, we could see a little bit of Marcus in action, but man, Dan Rimp just had the most legendary playoff run in college football history, and he got rewarded for it, so I can't say that that was a undeserving boost. He definitely was warranted to be that high of it overall. Robert Capps is looking pretty good right now. He's at the point where he is going to be a starting receiver. And then we have the next one, and this is another really interesting one. Jamario Carver, 4-star, is the number 1 rated receiver in the nation. That straight up just isn't something we've seen, not in the quarterback video, not in the running back video, but 4-star player is the top guy. We have Miami in the playoffs here, and we got Jalen Marcus on the field. We're going to roll out, and we're going to go Marcus's way, and that's going to be a nice connection between the quarterback and receiver. Great timing there, and we are at about the 10-yard line, going to be throwing his way. Ball up in the air. He snags it for the touchdown. It's going to be a tie game between Miami and Arizona. We take the football back. I'm just playing a little bit more, just trying trying to get him the football, and they're on a screen. Good blocking setup. He gets the first down, and more spin move to the inside. And Marcus was just a player I thought was really fun to utilize. And now throwing another ball down the field, and it's just out of reach. It's going to be Arizona football now, as they are going to try and take this lead. And that's not going to happen if we're catching an interception. And the defenses of both Clemson and Miami that we have been spectating, man, they have been getting interceptions left and right. Now at the 10-yard line, we're going to just let the offense take over, though. But it's 3rd down and 11. They get nothing, and it's going to be a field goal try, and the kick is good. Arizona's going to have a couple of minutes to go now, under 2 to play, inside the 40-yard line. Throwing, it's going to be caught for the first down, and more inside the red zone at the 19-yard line. Arizona back to the line, minute 16 to play, play action. Throwing outside, that's going to be caught, turning up ahead, first down, and down at the 6-yard line. And Miami, they got another interception in them. Throwing, he's rolling, throwing on the run, back of the end zone, and that's well done. That's going to be a touchdown. Arizona has the lead. And with little time to go, there's just not much we can really do. Desperation, throwing, and that's my bad. Intercepted by Arizona. They're going to take home the victory here. And I didn't want to be the person who lost us the game, but I guess if I won Clemson that one game with the deep bomb to Rimp, I guess we could accept that. Maybe I cost Jalen Marcus a chance at a victory here, though there wasn't a whole lot of time left. I don't know if the AI would have done anything. But take a peek at Dan Rimp in his wild season where he didn't have as many yards. But look at the efficiency. Throw him the dang ball. That's the most rack efficiency I have ever seen in my life. He averaged 13 yards after the catch per catch. That is generational levels of yards after the catch. I don't know why they just didn't throw a screen to him on every play, because my goodness, that is ridiculous. And Dan Rimp is immediately going down as one of the best players we have seen so far. Rimp obviously, went in the first round. He declared, and I didn't get the clip, but he went in the first. He was a 96 overall. Obviously, we weren't going to question if he was going in the first round or not. But we have Jalen Marcus, who's now a 94 overall in base. Robert Capps, he jumped up 92 overall. So we're seeing some of these receivers. That's 4 straight going over the 90 overall mark. And the first one in Iguanu, he was an 89. So some high-rated players here. Some really high-end, true number 1 level receivers. So it's going to be really interesting to see. Sidney Finley, despite being a starter from day 1, he didn't take the immediate jump that you would have expected from a 5-star elite prospect, just an 81 overall. And it's going to be interesting also to see that the top receiver was a 4-star rated guy. So will that kind of hurt some of the statistics here? It might just do so when he's a normal development player, and that is a very restricted level of growth that he is going to have. So unfortunately, this was just a really weak year when it came to receivers, so that's going to be interesting to see if that happens again. And, well, it did happen again, and it was back-to-back seasons. John Mayo, he's going to be a 4-star player as well. The difference here, though, is he's not bad. He's a gem player, so there's a thought that, if you're a gem 4-star, you're the caliber of a 5-star, or you're a 4-star player with really high depth. So Miami is going to come out here in the playoffs once again. I didn't do anything here. They just go out and beat NC State 35-20 pretty handedly. And they're going to have another game here, 22-24. Oklahoma has the football, 3rd down, and a stop here from the Miami defense. They're going to take over with an opportunity to take the lead here. And I'm just going to let this play out as they throw it over the middle, caught for the first down. And inside the red zone, that's going to be a big gain. Under 5 to play, 2nd down and 4. Handoff, sweeping right. He gets the lane, first down, and heading for the end zone. Touchdown, Miami. I'd rather not hop in and throw the interception that loses them the game. I want to see Jalen Marcus see if he can, get a championship without me doing anything here. It's going to be a 5-point game. Throwing, and they're going to go down the sidelines, caught, and it's going to be all the way for a touchdown with under 2 minutes to play. Oklahoma strikes back, 2-point conversion to try to make it a field goal game, and it is caught at the goal line, but he just couldn't get the football in. It's going to be a 1-point game. Miami throwing past midfield. They are getting sacked, and it's 4th and 15. Hurrying back to the line. Little time to go. Dropping to throw. What has Miami got for us? And it's going to be caught, and that's right down the seam for the touchdown. And Miami pulls one out of nowhere on 4th and 15, scrambling back to the line. I don't know if they caught him off guard or there was some sort of miscommunication, but that was a wide open play. 2-point conversion was good. 7-point game, and with no time to go, they're just trying to roll out, and he's sacked. He tried to play some some backyard football and create something. It wasn't to be, and Miami pulls one off. Now we're in the national championship, but it's just not looking good for Miami. I hopped in to see if they can just get a touchdown to score and maybe make it a one-score game, try to do something. Didn't work. They threw the interception. USC wins the title, and Jalen Marcus finishes his career fairly productive, but not his best season to close out. Caps is also going to have not so much production in his career, but his overall talent is going to lead him to want to go to the NFL. The other two guys, Carver and Finley, did pretty whatever in their time, and it's going to be Marcus going in round 1, and not only that, we also have Robert Capps declaring and going in round 1. Mayo, he's going to go to Texas, so he maybe has a little bit more opportunities than going to a place like Georgia Tech where they aren't throwing the football as prevalently. Sidney Finley, I'm a little disappointed. I know he's at, a small school, but man, I thought with the elite dev and all his abilities and how great he was coming out, I would have thought he'd be a little bit better by now. Carver, on the other hand, no surprise here. I mean, he's already almost completely maxed out, and he's just an 82 overall, so I mean, he's probably going to tank some of the statistics a little bit, but luckily we have 20 players, and he's not going to overall hurt it that much. John Mayo is a little bit better for a 4-star player. He at least has impact development, so he's going to be able to grow a little bit more, though his rating caps are nothing to go crazy about. So, I mean, he's probably nothing special in terms of a 90 overall player, but if we want to talk about making up for the fact that we've had 2 4-star players, how about a 6'2", 99 speed, 98 jumping, absolute monster of a wide receiver, one of the best prospects I have ever seen. I don't care where he goes or what happens, I'm at least throwing a couple of footballs his way. My goodness, that is unbelievable. A physical wide receiver. He's going to Oregon. He's a physical wide receiver with 99 speed. Sidney Finley, in his final season, does take a nice jump up. 88 overall, but I ultimately feel like for the prospect that he looked to be coming out, 88 overall being his max, and I mean, he doesn't look like he was going to get much better. It's a little disappointing. Carver, he's about what he's going to be, so not much of a jump here, nothing at all. And then we have John Mayo, who did take a couple of nice jumps here. I mean, that's a pretty big overall jump for a player of his caliber. The problem is, he's probably maxed out, so a +9 is great, but I don't think he's going to get any better. I don't know if he's ever going to jump another overall, maybe one. And then we got the superstar here, Nico Pineda. He's an elite dev, has everything you want, has plenty of room to grow. I hope this dude becomes a monster. I want to see him be just dominating everyone. What a player he is. Next receiver we got is Braden Fitzsimmons, who's not quite as good as Pineda, but I mean, I don't know if anyone's going to be as good from a scouting perspective. Also, Sidney Finley ends his career overall pretty productive to about 1,000-yard seasons. And also, if I'm not showing you anybody's statistics, it's because they did little to nothing. Either they were flat out on the bench, or maybe they got 4 catches throughout the season. Finley gets drafted, Fitzsimmons goes to Ohio State, and we move on to see Jamario Carver has hit his absolute peak, and that is just an 84 overall. So, I mean, considering he was the #1 receiver in the nation, obviously that's going to be labeled a bit of a disappointment, but I mean, he hit his upside at least. John Mayo is also not exactly growing at the level that we would have liked because he just doesn't have the ceiling. He got that +9, but he's basically maxed out. So, I mean, the 4-star receivers, you can already see even the lowest end of 5-star receivers are still blowing them out of the water when it comes to their overall upside, but we have yet to see a bust receiver yet, so maybe, we'll get something there when it comes to a bust receiver showing that they have limited upside. Pineda, still not quite a starter yet, but he's getting better. Fitzsimmons, he's a star player, he's looking pretty good, has a nice future, so I mean, that's going to be 2 receivers on the board here as we kind of try to cycle out the 2 4-star receivers who are basically going to be non-factors, as even if we get into the spot where they are in the playoffs, I don't know how productive they're going to be. We have Kalen Ivory, who looks really good. Another physical receiver. Physical seems to be maybe the more popular one in some of the guys that are really good. Jamario Carver, I mean, overall pretty solid #2, #3 receiver, but nothing special there. John Mayo, he gets to go and have a 1,000-yard season, so that's pretty nice. Carver doesn't get drafted. No surprise there. And then we have Kalen Ivory. So he commits to Oregon, and then when I go to Oregon, he's not there. He flipped his commit after. That is, I haven't seen that one before. The number one player at his position flipped his commit from Oregon to Washington. So he's now on Washington despite what I thought to be Oregon. I was really confused when I didn't find him. I had to go look for him, and here he is. He's a really good player. Like, he's actually one of the better receivers that we've seen. Imagine him and Pineda together, but now they're going to be opposite one another. Mayo, after that great season, he's maxed out. He is what he is. So some people don't like that about this game. I honestly like this. I think that this is more realistic. Players have ceilings, players have physical limitations, and no amount of statistics that you put up is going to change that. I mean, just because you put up 5,000 passing yards doesn't mean all of a sudden you have a stronger arm or anything. You know, it's just, that's how it works in real life. I know for some people, they want to see their players who are getting 1,000+ yards be 90 overalls, but that's just not how it works in real life. So I like the more realistic approach. I prefer that. I know some people are more, in line of just they want to see their players become beasts and high overall players. So I understand both sides, but for me, I've always been a realism type of guy and prioritizing that. I like the variance. I like the randomness. And we can see here, Pineda finally gets a start. I mean, he doesn't have 1,000 yards in the regular season, but 14 touchdowns on 50+ catches. That's going to get him the best receiver award. They go out, smash UTSA in the first round of the playoffs, so it's pretty good there. I mean, he's going to be rolling on to the next round, and he had a really good game, so that's going to get him up to 1,000+ yards for the overall season. Unfortunately, they go and get smacked around by Georgia, so, the jump up in competition going from UTSA to Georgia, pretty prevalent there. But still, overall, very successful season for him. But going back to what I said before, I do like the variance. I like the randomness. John Mayo also had a 1,000-yard season and just couldn't get on the field. He fell out of favor very quickly, it looks like. But yeah, I like the variance. I like the randomness. I like that some players can just fail. I like that some players can just not be good even if their development says that. It happens in real life, The number 1 overall prospect isn't always going to be the best player. The number 10 overall prospect could be better than whoever. It doesn't matter. I like the variance. I like the randomness. I know it's not everybody's favorite, but I think this game captures the randomness of what happens in real football better than any Madden game that's come out in ever, basically. I guess speaking of Madden, if you want to see a Madden-related challenge video or simulating video, I'd be down for that, but I know Madden isn't as popular right now, and everyone just wants to see college football, which I can't blame you, but if there's any Madden-related videos that you want to see, I'm down to do that, but I can imagine you probably just prefer me sticking with college football for now, but maybe down the line we'll get into some Madden stuff if it is fun and I have good ideas for that. But we get into the next receiver, Dorsey. Honestly, nothing special. He's a route runner who doesn't have particularly great route running. I don't know there. We haven't seen many route runners, so I don't know what he's going to look like, but he didn't look like anything special. Kalen Ivory, though, what a season for him. I know Oregon is punching air at the fact that they couldn't get him, and he flipped his commit. Fitzsimmons goes, and he gets drafted. And then you can see here, Dorsey, I couldn't find him on the National Signing Day. It was really weird. He just wasn't there, and then I had to go searching for him, and I searched through all the teams, and he's on Boise State. And not only that, he's a 67 overall. He wasn't a bust. He was not a bust. But he was a 67 overall 5-star receiver. I've not seen that before. That is a little ridiculous. 67 overall is horrendous for a player who wasn't even a bust. He's got good development, but man, he's starting at such a low spot. I don't know if he can be like Dan Rimp over there who jumped up 1 billion overalls. And even if he does, say he jumps up like 20 overalls, he's still just an 87, which, that's good enough to get you maybe in the 6th round, but man, that's brutal. And 67 overall, I guess we're going to see what he can do. Ivory's pretty good. Gaines, he's growing. He's looking like he could be a potentially good player if he takes another step up in a future season. So Pineda, he's going to be going into his final season. I want to see what he can do. We have the next player, Odigizua. Definitely a lot better and more in line with the receivers we have seen. I said that no matter what, I was going to get to play with Pineda. He didn't make the playoffs or anything. They're just in a regular bowl game. I wouldn't usually do this, but man, I want to throw him a couple of passes and just see what he can do. So let's throw one up. He is one of the best jump ball receivers in the nation, and he jumps up and grabs that one. The corner wasn't exactly doing the best job there, but I mean, when that dude's jumping over your head, I mean, it's going to be pretty difficult. Pineda, we're going to throw one over the middle, and he just absolutely mosses the dude. And we're just over here having some fun with him and throwing once again. Going end zone, caught, and just kept him out. But it is going to be another play here, setting up, throwing back corner of the end zone, caught for the touchdown. And I literally was just launching balls up to him. It was a little bit of fun. Those are the best plays that I got here. And it didn't really do a whole lot when it came to his overall statistics. He kind of hovered around the 1,000-yard mark for those 2 seasons. But, I mean, obviously, this is going to be a guy that if I were an NFL GM, I'm over here pounding the table saying, I want this dude in the first round. Kalen Ivory, big statistical drop-off. He's still pretty good, and there he goes in the first round, well-deserved. I think he was one of the better receivers we have gotten so far, Odigizua. He goes to Ohio State, so that's going to be 2 receivers going to Ohio State in the past couple of seasons. We've already seen Fitzsimmons, come in, play 3 years. He moved on, and now we have another receiver heading to Ohio State, so they're going to be in the mix here. Gaines is now at a point where he's going to be starting. Ivory's once again taking another jump. He's pretty good. So we have a couple of receivers in the mix, and not only in the mix, but on good teams. I mean, Michigan should be in the mix, and Washington should potentially make a playoff run. Jaleel Dorsey, I mean, not a bad jump in overall, +7, but, I mean, a +7 is still only putting him at, like, a backup receiver caliber player, so he's got a long way to go still. Odigizua, he's looking pretty solid. I mean, he's got the elite dev, the deep threat. He's going to be fast. He's going to be able to do a lot of different things, and I mean, he's already better than Dorsey is after his +7, so I mean, he's in a better starting position than him for sure. We got Jeremiah Wallner next, and that's going to be good route running, good speed, good size, good jumping, everything you want to see there. It really just seems like physical wide receivers are the way to go. They're the overpowered ones. And as we have this season come to a close, we have Michigan in the playoffs, and look at that, a Michigan-Ohio State playoff game, and that's probably going to be very hostile. 10-6, Michigan with the football, and they're going to throw for the touchdown. Big play, set them up inside the 10, and they get the touchdown to finish the drive off. It is going to be 13-10, and Ohio State has the football under 2 minutes to play, trying to get a game-winning touchdown drive. They throw over the middle, caught for the first down past the 45-yard line, hurrying back to the line, first down and 10, throwing, and they're going to be going over the middle. That's going to be caught for another first down, and this time it's a big chunk play. Back to the line they go, another first down and 10, throwing the football once more, and that's going to be a slant, and it's caught inside the 10-yard line. 3 pass plays, 3 very successful ones. Jump into second down now, as it's going to be into the end zone, right at the goal line. They rule him in, and now Michigan down by 4, needing a touchdown with under a minute to play, throwing, and it's going to be a first down. Timeout used. Now they're past midfield, 44-yard line. 44 yards to go. Clean pocket. He's got a lot of time. He's going to run the football. Can he get out of bounds? No, he slides. They take the timeout now, and it's going to be dropping to throw first and 10. Nowhere to go. He gets sacked, and hurrying back to the line goes Michigan. They have time for one more play. Hail Mary for the win over the rival Ohio State in the playoffs, and it's a complete, and Michigan cannot go on to the next round. Gaines will have to play another season here at Michigan if he wants to try to get a national championship here. Washington on the other side of things gets a quick victory over Clemson. Kalen Ivory trying to get himself to the championship, and now Washington and Ohio State are meeting. Can Ohio State take down both #1 rated receivers in the nation? It's going to be Ohio State up by 3, running up ahead, first down, and they have a chance to take a 2-score lead here in the fourth quarter. Dropping back, pump fake, he's looking right side, and he throws it right at the Washington defender, who comes up with the interception. A chance to take a 2-score lead is thrown away, and Washington has an opportunity now with a little sweep coming around the other side of the field. First down, and he's got free space in the open field. He gets tracked down inside the 20-yard line, though. A big play drawn up there. Washington throwing on third down, caught, and it's going to be a touchdown. Washington takes the lead, and Ohio State throwing that interception is just brutal here as they now have to come out on the field with 3 minutes to play. Third down. Do they got something for us? It's going to be a first down inside the 40-yard line. They need a touchdown, though. It's a 4-point game. Clock ticking under 3 minutes to play. Drop him back. He's got time. He's got a clean pocket, and he's got an open man inside the 20-yard line now. Curl route just sitting in between the zone coverages, and they're going to throw once more. End zone intercepted, and Washington takes it back again. And that is just awful red zone quarterbacking right there. It's going to be Washington, though, on third down, throwing down the sideline. Just threw it out of bounds, had nowhere to go with the football. Might have wanted to take the sack there to maybe run the clock or force a timeout. Instead, Ohio State gets the football back with 1.5 minutes to play, and one play already has them set up inside the 40-yard line, throwing right down the seam, and that's going to be intercepted for a third time. How do you keep doing this? Ohio State's quarterback is throwing the game away, and Washington pulls out the victory. Their defense got 3 interceptions in their own territory. Now we're on to the national championship. Washington had a first-round bye, and they're going to be taking on Texas Tech in the national championship. It's 14-14. 5 minutes to play. Texas Tech, quick throw outside. That's intercepted. Throw right at the defender, and Washington is just intercepting every quarterback, and this one is going to go all the way for a touchdown. This Washington defense just keeps turning everybody over. 21-14. Washington has the football back with under 2 minutes to play, trying to seal the deal on a national championship. One more little jet touch pass, cut it up inside, and they're gonna be in for the touchdown, biting in the second effort, and Washington is going to be just a play away from a national championship potentially, throwing, and another interception. Who is running this defense? Who are these players? They just won themselves a national championship with 5 interceptions in the final 4 quarters of each of those last 2 games. Kalen Ivory, statistically nothing spectacular compared to his sophomore season, but he did enough to get himself a national championship, and he's going to be going to the NFL, a top round draft pick. So overall, very successful career for him. Jeremiah Wallner goes to Florida, so he gets to stay pretty local, and Gaines does not really take a jump. That's disappointing. He's going into his final season, and from freshman to sophomore to junior year, nothing crazy, and then now going into his senior year, no gain in overall. So it's going to be a question if he's even going to be able to be in the NFL, be good enough to get there. Jaleel Dorsey, I mean, took another pretty big leap, and he's an 82 overall now, but he's been jumping up so much that he's almost hit his caps, and since he started at such a low spot, I mean, I don't know if he's ever going to be NFL talent type of player. Odigizua, on the other hand, he's definitely got some NFL potential, and he's got the speed to get him there, so we'll see if he can keep developing, but he's looking good so far. Wallner is just an impact development player, unfortunately, but I still really like his skill set, and we'll see. You know, he's starting off at a pretty high overall for his base. 78 overall is pretty good, so we're going to see what he can do, but impact overall doesn't mean you're just doomed. But McQueen here is going to be our first bust. Terrell McQueen, 4th rated prospect in the nation. We'll see where he goes. We got some playoff football here. Michigan is back in it, down by 6, and we're going to hop in and we'll see what Gaines can do on the field. Down by 6 with just a couple of minutes to play. Play action, throwing, and we're going to throw one up for Gaines in double coverage, and he brings it down, breaking a tackle, break another one, and Gaines is in, and that's definitely going to be play of the day, and not only play of the day, play of the video. Gaines, what a absolute monster. I wouldn't have predicted that play would come from a guy like him, and Michigan's defense gets the interception, take it back. 3rd down and 3, direct snap. It's going to be for the first down to seal the game, and that turns out to be the game-winning touchdown. I've been playing a little bit less, just kind of seeing what plays out, and the one time I hop in, we get one of the most spectacular plays we've seen in this series so far, but we have Duke in the next round. It is going to be Michigan 17, Duke 17, and Michigan trying to get into the end zone here. They get stopped right at the 1, but they get the first down. It's 1st and goal, hand it off, punch it in, touchdown Michigan. And they're going to be up by 7 here. And can they go all the way to a national championship? We've seen a number of these teams successfully get to a national championship as Duke has a first down and more past midfield. It's going to be a minute and a half to play, just about. 2nd down and 2, dropping to throw. He's going to go underneath. Got the running back for the check down, and he's going to get past the 30-yard line, so they're inching closer to the end zone here, trying to maybe get an overtime game potentially. Dropping to throw once more, and he goes down. It's a sack. Timeout used. Under a minute to play. Now it's 4th and 21. They've just been throwing incomplete passes, and that's going to be another one. And Michigan is going to hang on for the victory. And it's time for a semifinals game where we're going to hop in down by 9. 7 minutes to play. 4th down, throwing. We're just going to try to toss one up to Gaines, and he makes the play. This dude Gaines is making spectacular grabs, and makes me wonder how good he could have been if he developed even more. Throwing outside. That's going to be caught. Touchdown, Michigan. And it's going to be a one-score game now. We're going to just kind of let things play out and see if Michigan can kind of capitalize here. It's going to be 3rd down. Can the defense get off the field? Throwing, and the pass is jumped, but he missed it. The safety jumped the ball, but he just flat out missed it, and Clemson has the touchdown. Wiped the touchdown off the board that I just got because Clemson responds right back. And now throwing off his back foot on 4th and 12, and that's going to be caught for a touchdown. What is going on? He just threw it off his back foot on 4th and 12. I thought the game was ending there, and instead it's going to be a crazy touchdown. 37-35, 3rd down for Clemson, and they go down. Michigan has the football back. They have a chance here. Handoff, come back around. Gaines has it, and Gaines is throwing, and it's caught for the 1st down. Gaines on the trick play. What can he do? And the quarterback now throwing, intercepted. Man, you just should have kept Gaines in there throwing the football because Michigan turns it over, and they're going to go down, it looks like. If they can't get off the field here, it's going to be a handoff, and Clemson, they're not able to get the 1st down. They're going to have another opportunity, and it's going to be throwing Michigan over the middle. That's almost intercepted. It's 4th down and 5. They're going to have another try, though. 4th down, throwing outside, incomplete. They threw it into double coverage, and man, Michigan loses by 2, and that's disappointing. Gaines has a good 2-year stretch to end his career, and he even threw a pass in that last game, but my goodness, man. He did everything he could, but unfortunately it's not to be. He gets drafted, though, which is really cool to see. We also see another interesting commit. We've had North Texas on the board, and now it's Tulsa on the board. But this 5-star receiver, he was the lone bust that we have found so far, and he is just a normal dev 5-star #1 rated receiver. So I mean, yeah, he went to Tulsa, but I don't know how much of a game changer he's really going to be for this team. Jaleel Dorsey, he was taking good jumps from year to year, but now he's just stagnated, and he's low 80s, mid 80s. He's just not getting better, and that's unfortunate. I mean, a 67 overall 5-star, you're not going to expect him to jump up to those high levels. Odighizuwa is now at the point where he's going to be not only a competent starter, but an NFL caliber player. I mean, this is already going to be good enough to get him into the day 3 of draft section. And Jeremiah Wallner, he's going to go up by 2. He got a red shirt, which not a lot of the receivers do get red shirts, because even if they're not out here being starters or all that productive, they're still seeing enough snaps to warrant not getting the red shirt because they have too many games to qualify. Next receiver, Dorian Dedrick, is going to be not a bust, got some nice abilities there. Dorsey is on the field and playing for Boise State and is at least producing a little bit. Odighizuwa with a really nice season, leading receiver at Ohio State. Wallner, he gets a nice amount of touchdowns, but ultimately being the #3 receiver is a little bit behind when it comes to production. And McQueen, as a true freshman, 1,000 yards, but he's probably not going to get a whole lot better. Dedrick goes to Maryland. Dorsey is going to be getting a little bit better, but this is his peak, basically, so it's probably not good enough to get him into the NFL. Maybe if he goes nuts, he can slide into the 7th round, don't know. Odighizuwa, he's sticking around for another season. You know, players like him on that high 80s fringe, you know, sometimes they go to the NFL, sometimes they don't. He does not. He's going to stick around for another season, so that's going to be good to see if we can get him into the playoffs. Wallner, he takes a nice little step up, 5 overall, so he's an 85, but he is fully maxed out, which is unfortunate, but he's going to be a starting receiver, and we'll see what he can do. McQueen, he is taking a little bit of a step up, but again, normal development kind of limits his upside, and I don't know if he's going to be able to replicate being a 1,000-yard receiver as a true freshman, but he's at Tulsa, so it's not like his competition is all that vast. Dedrick, impact development player. Again, it's really interesting compared to quarterbacks and running backs. We've seen a lot more lower ceiling players. It seems like the variance of ceiling is a lot different with the wide receivers, where it seems like there's just more range of outcomes with these players, as we see Clausen, our first gem in a little while. And I haven't shown anything crazy when it comes to championships or Heisman winners. There just hasn't been anything. But look at this. 38 touchdowns to 0 picks. So that is a crazy Heisman season. Never seen that level of a touchdown interception ratio before, but we are in a game here up by 10 in the playoffs. It's going to be Wallner underneath, and Wallner with the spin move, juking inside. Wanted to see what he can do a little bit, as they're already up by 11. So, I mean, I'm not influencing the game that much as he makes a diving catch there. Now it's going to be second down at the 23-yard line, dropping to throw. He steps up, throwing to Wallner, double coverage, and that's a touchdown. Wallner with a big time grab, and he is going to have a touchdown to make it a 3-score game where Florida's going to seal the deal there. I just wanted to get a little couple of snaps in there, some fun plays with them. Florida is out here steamrolling Michigan to another playoff victory, and they're going to be moving on to the semifinals. This Florida team looking real good here against Oregon, now up by 3, couple minutes to play. I'm going to just hop in one throw. Let's throw it up to Wallner in the end zone. Caught for the touchdown. Slot fade. Safety couldn't get there in time. It didn't even matter because Florida went out, stopped them, put up another score by themselves. It's going to be a 17-point victory, and they are going to a national championship. We've seen a lot more national championship action here. It's 33-30, 2 minutes to play. Florida has the football, sacked on third down, though. Oklahoma's going to take over. Minute 25 to go. Oklahoma throwing. It's going to be caught for the first down over the middle of the field, 35-yard line. They are in field goal range potentially, but they want that touchdown. Second down, throwing outside. Got a man wide open on the corner. It's going to be inside the 10. Goal to go. Jump ahead. Third down and goal. 40 seconds to play. Outside. Caught. And that's going to be a touchdown. Oklahoma. If they're meant to win a national championship, it'll happen. I'm not going to be the one to influence it. 40 seconds to play. Florida tuck, run. He's going to go up ahead for the first down and more, and it's going to be a 17-yard gain. First down and 10, 30 seconds to play. Throwing underneath, broken tackle, break another, and he's got a block, and he's springing all the way. He's going to go for a touchdown. What a play, and the national championship could have been won on that one right there. Oklahoma just has seconds to play. It's third down and long, 12 seconds to play. Drop into throw. He's got nowhere to go. It's not going to be a safety, but they're not going to have enough time to get another snap off. And Florida, on a spectacular catch and run for a touchdown, is going to win the national championship. Wallner has a spectacular season and helps contribute to that championship. Odighizuwa is going to go to the NFL with back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons, and it's going to be well worth an NFL draft pick. Dorsey, he had that 1,000-yard season, but, I mean, just kind of slumped back into what his potential indicated that he would be, which is just a number 2 or number 3. McQueen not quite able to replicate his success. Dorsey doesn't get drafted, but Odighizuwa does get going in the 4th round. I think he could have been drafted a little bit higher. He had a really good last 2 seasons. West Virginia is able to land Clausen, so it's going to be a nice pickup for them. Wallner does not jump up despite the spectacular season just because he's already hit his physical maxes in his max capability. So obviously a little unfortunate he's not going to be a high overall player, but I mean, he was still able to produce with the abilities that he had, so he can do it again. McQueen, he's basically hit his physical peak at this point. It's not bad, but he was not able to replicate that incredible freshman season that he had at Tulsa, and obviously Tulsa's not going to be in no national championship conversations, I would imagine. Dedrick, not a big jump. He just goes up by 2, and he's going to have to try to find his way onto the field for Maryland. He's not quite a starter yet. And then we have Clausen, who looks pretty good. He does have elite development, so it's been a couple of receivers since we've had an elite guy, so it's going to be nice to have that on the board. And we'll see West Virginia, who is definitely a team that is capable of going to a championship or a playoff appearance. Sean Chesley is the next receiver, and he is going to be another physical player. We've seen that quite a bit. not a gem, not a bust, pretty decent. Florida back in the playoffs again, and they got to take down North Texas. If only North Texas wanted to go and make the playoffs when they had an amazing receiver in Finley, but not to be. And they go and get to run the gauntlet against non-power Texas teams, so they go and destroy UTSA as well. Here we are against Kentucky, though, down by 10 with 3 minutes to play, and they need a desperation drive, and that's not going to happen. Not a quite as exciting playoff run, just 2 dominant games, and then a game where they kind of were just down by 2 scores the entire time and weren't able to get anything going. So the defending champs go down, but another successful season for Wallner, 1,000+ yards, double-digit touchdowns. He is playing very well. McQueen, again, just not able to do what he did in his freshman season. Sean Chesley, he gets to go to Nebraska, so it's going to be nice to have Nebraska involved, and we'll see if he can do anything. Wallner, I mean, same story with him. He's maxed out, but he's still putting up 1,000 yards. He's still putting up good statistics. I just hope if he goes out and has another spectacular season, he can get drafted. He's kind of like on that fringe, on that borderline. McQueen, fully maxed out going into his final season. So we're going to see if McQueen at an 84 overall can do anything. I don't think he's there. Like 85 is kind of the cutoff. I don't see anyone below 85 getting drafted. I've seen an 85 get drafted before. I haven't seen anything below that, so like it's like right at that cutoff point. Dedrick only goes up by 1, so he's not developing very well. There's a reason I haven't even shown you anything he's done, because he's just got a handful of career catches now going into his 3rd season. Also, another fun thing about Wallner is, you know, not many receivers in this video have made it to their 5th season, you know, get that red shirt and don't declare beforehand. Wallner is just the 3rd receiver to make it to a red shirt senior season, so I mean, maybe he's going to be one of those players where it's like, great college guy, Florida fans will never forget the dude. He's going to be, you know, Hall of Fame level Florida player, but maybe he just doesn't end up doing anything in the NFL. Our final receiver, Connor Steven, another physical archetype receiver, and for Florida in Wallner's final season, they do go and make the college football playoffs once again. Let's get into it. Can Florida come out here and win another national championship in Wallner's final season? It's 17-17, and they start with a big play there. And it's going to be inside the 25-yard line, already in position to take the lead here with 2 minutes to play. 3rd down and 12. Running out of time, and the pressure gets in. Sack. Now the field goal is going to be a long one, 51 yards. Kick on the way, and it is good. So Florida's going to have to go down and get a field goal if they can try to tie this game up, maybe get a touchdown, and that's going to be a big play over the middle of the field, and just like that, they are set up in scoring position, but can they get more? Can they get the touchdown? 3rd down, trying to find an open receiver. He's got no one, and it's going to be 4th down, so they're going to kick the field goal, and it's going to leave the door open for Wisconsin to try to get a game-winning field goal and knock Florida out the playoffs. And with that throw under pressure, and it's going to be a flag on the play too. He completed the pass, and they're going to tack on 15 more yards, and that's going to set them up into field goal range. Another run here on 3rd down. They're going to be able to run more clock, run it down. Final play of the game, field goal for the win, and the kick is no good. We're going to overtime. Okay, we're going to overtime. Florida still has a chance here. The kicker just blew it, and in overtime, we got a touchdown-saving tackle there, but they're at the 1-yard line. Florida trying to punch it in, and they sweep wide left into the end zone, and it's going to be 27-20. Now it's going to be 1st down and 10, Wisconsin's turn, and they get sacked. They're back at the 36-yard line. 2nd down and long. They're going to throw down the sidelines, and he's wide open for the touchdown. 2nd overtime, here we come. They're going to skip ahead. 3rd down. It's going to throw it, tipped, and intercepted. Florida's got it back, and they're already set up with an opportunity to win the game with a field goal. But why even put the offense on the field when you can take it all the way back for a touchdown? Game-winning pick 6, and it's going to be Florida moving on to the next round of the playoffs. Next game against a very good Alabama team, and Florida just absolutely runs them off the field. Alabama goes down. Florida's on to the next round. They're in the semifinals against Miami. It's 16-16 now. Little time to go, 2 minutes to play. It's going to be 2nd down, handoff for a gain of 5. Now it's going to be 3rd down and 7. Throwing down the left side of the field. That's going to be caught. And can they catch him? And they will just get him down at the 1-yard line. Couldn't break the plane. It's not going to matter, though, because it's 1st down and goal at the 1, and they punch it in for a touchdown. Florida now has to go and get a touchdown drive of their own. Can they do it? They've had so many crazy finishes here. That's going to be caught for a gain of 15. McQueen, and now throwing once more outside. That's going to be intercepted. And Florida, not only do you lose a playoff game, but you're going to lose it to Miami, which is going to hurt all the more. They track him down, but it's not going to matter because they're going to run the clock out. And it's going to be Florida going down. It's unfortunate, but look at the career of Jeremiah Wallner. Just spectacular, the most productive receiver we have had. And not only that, he has rewritten the history books at Florida, holds all their records, and he is definitely a special player. McQueen has a very productive career. He bookends his career with 2 great seasons. Dedrick finally gets to see some action. Nothing special from him, but it's really unfortunate to see Wallner doesn't get drafted. That kind of hurts. I feel like he was one of those players where he wasn't the best. He wasn't anything spectacular, but I kind of had a sentimental connection to him as a receiver, man. I felt like he was like the guy you wanted to root for a little bit. And the final receiver also, he goes to Rice, so I don't know if we're going to be getting any more playoff action. Our Florida receiver is gone. We have West Virginia, Maryland, Rice in the mix, so West Virginia has a chance. Maybe Dedrick can get into the playoffs. I don't know about Rice, though. I don't know if they're going to be seeing the playoffs. But it's really interesting to see that we've had Rice, Tulsa, North Texas, some different teams getting on the board here with these receivers where we didn't really have that as much with the quarterback. We also have Nebraska still here and Sean Chesley, who's yet to really see the field, but he jumped up pretty decently. So we're going to see if any of these final receivers, we're at the end here. No more receivers are coming in. It's the final guys. Connor Steven, he's pretty good too. So, I mean, we're going to see if he can maybe elevate Rice to get to that point where they can be good enough to at least get a playoff appearance. But let's get into these final couple of seasons, see if we have any action here. And we would have had some action if Oklahoma didn't absolutely destroy West Virginia and drop 60 on them. But Nebraska also made it. They'll be taking on Louisiana. And to my surprise, they go and get stomped out by the Ragin' Cajuns. So no gameplay for us. We have Dedrick finishing his career as one of the more underwhelming receivers. I mean, one of the lowest overall, least productive guys. Obviously, he's probably not going to get drafted. Clausen has a pretty okay year. Chesley has a pretty okay year. But, I mean, Dedrick, one of the more disappointing receivers. And as we approach the end of this video, you can kind of let me know who's the receiver that you like the most. Who's the guy you would want on your team? Who is the guy who, you know, you'd want to be throwing footballs up to? Is it Panea from Oregon, that generational-looking receiver? Is it Kalen Ivory in his big season? Do you want the consistency? Someone like Jeremiah Wallner, who maybe isn't as talented but is just hyper-productive? Or do you want just a straight-up best overall player who had a crazy season in Dan Rimp? I mean, there's a lot of good options. There's a lot of really fun receivers here, and we'll see if we can add maybe one more to that pile with Chesley or a guy like Clausen, who has jumped up a pretty significant overalls. Connor Steven, he jumped up a couple. So some of these players do potentially have the opportunity to jump up to a spot where they can be really good players, but I feel like we've kind of got a good understanding of what we are looking at with these guys. Clausen, unfortunately, I mean, for as good as he was, not 1,000 yards, not anything special. Chesley, he does get 1,000 yards as, you know, a redshirt sophomore, so we have opportunities there to see if he can continue to grow. But to my surprise, he declared for the draft. Now, usually you get these 90 overall players declaring, but high 80s, it's like a 50-50, and I would have thought for a guy who's projected to go in the 5th round, maybe he'd want to stick around, but he's gone, Chesley's gone, Dedrick's gone, Clausen got drafted in the 1st round, and we're down to Connor Stevens. So, I mean, we're just going to finish out Connor Stevens' career and probably imagine that Rice isn't going to be making the playoffs. So what this means is we have done 20 receivers, we have gotten through 20 careers, and we can get to the part that everyone's really interested in, the part that some people maybe think is their favorite part, and that is going to be the final tally, the final statistics, where we can get into everything, where these receivers were from, where they broke down, what the splits are looking like, and there are some vastly different results compared to the previous videos. So let's get into that stuff right now. Connor Stevens also did get drafted, so good for him. Starting off with the location here with all these statistics and data that we have for you, and Texas was able to take the lead when it came to the amount of players that came out from their state. 25% of the receivers were from Texas, and there was a pretty decent split the rest of the way. Florida 3, Georgia 2, Virginia 2, California 2, and then we had 6 different states have one-offs. I felt like the receiver distribution was pretty decent throughout the rest of the country. I didn't feel like one place other than maybe Texas was dominant. I would be curious to see what this would look like if we had like 100 different simulations. But relative to the QB and running back video, I kind of felt like the split was there and it wasn't one place just strictly dominating. It was just Texas is going to have the most, Florida's going to have the most. That makes sense. Where receivers really separated themselves was some of the recruiting info that we had from them. Unlike the quarterback and running back video, we had some good and bad things go in the receiver's favor. While none of the receivers were cut, we had a 20 for 20, making it through their whole career. We didn't have 20 out of 20 being 5-star players. There were 2 years back to back where there were 4-star receivers being the highest rated receiver in the country. Now, they were borderline 5 stars. There's about 30-ish 5 stars per recruiting class, I feel like. And the receivers were 33rd and 34th, and 34th contributing to the lowest ranking. So they were borderline 5-star players, but they were 2 of the worst players that we got, not just in terms of their overall recruiting grade, but just how their careers turned out. We did have players as high as the #1 prospect. And one thing I was really surprised about, maybe the thing that I wouldn't have predicted at all, no athletes. Quarterback was pretty split. I think it was like a 65-35 split with quarterbacks, running backs. You get a favorable split in terms of a chunk, a third of the players being athletes. For the receivers, I don't know if I just got a batch of 20 that just turned out that way, or that's like just legitimately what the split's going to look like. No athletes. I don't know what that would have looked like if I did more, but I was really surprised to find that out. And then when it came to the archetype of receivers that you're getting, physical was definitely the dominant one, and it did produce the best receivers. If you were looking for what the best receivers are, physical is that. Deep threats had some really good players, and a lot of the deep threats I did notice as we looked at some of the stats, if you kept track of them when I was going over their attributes. Some of the deep threats are more than just deep threats. There were a lot of guys who had deep threat archetype, but were really good run after catch. One thing I have noticed in this game, and it wasn't just in this video, route runners just stink. I mean, the route runner, there was only 2 of them, and one of them was the worst 5-star receiver I have ever seen. And typically players with that archetype are smaller, slower, and their biggest attribute is supposed to be route running or maybe run after the catch, but their route running isn't even really that great either comparative to other archetypes. So I think they need to be kind of buffed a little bit in terms of size or athleticism, or just at least their route running so they could be good at what they're supposed to be good at. We also seen a decent amount of variance when it came to how good they were. In the other videos, quarterback and running back, there were no normals. They were all basically star elite with the occasional impact. In this video, we've seen a lot more range of outcomes when it came to normals, impacts, and there weren't even that many stars, just 4 stars, but elite players were the most prevalent type. But like, if you weren't getting an elite player, it was hard to get a great receiver. A lot of the guys just had more limited ceilings and limited caps, so that was really interesting. And the fact that even though there were 2 normals and 5 impacts, only 1 was a true bust. So that was really interesting. I would have thought that the 67 overall 5-star receiver would have been a bust. He wasn't a bust. At least not by scouting would determine him a bust. So that was a really interesting thing. There was a lot less gems and bust, but a lot more variance when it came to developments and overalls. The variance really showed up when you got to the development path, because we seen some crazy players jump up. I mean, Dan Rimpf was ridiculous. He started as a 73 overall, went all the way up to a 96. He was like the highest overall player we've had in these videos, but he started so low. He took a plus 14 in his final season. We started with 67 overall receiver who was a 5-star. He didn't get that much better when it came to his overall upside, even though he hit his ceiling. Some of these receivers' ceilings just weren't that high to begin with. They would max out, it'd be 85, 86, 87 overalls, but then there'd be other receivers, their potential sky high, and they're hitting low to even mid 90 overalls. So it was really interesting to see. We got some high overall guys, but we also got guys that just were not getting better. On average, plus 10 overall doesn't sound so bad, But I mean, this one is definitely a law of averages because you're either getting, a +5 or a +20 was the high and low end. There's a lot of variance with these receivers. That would overall contribute to the fact that with these overalls, 70% of them did get drafted because a lot of them did hit their overalls or at least got good enough to be drafted. But some guys were just capped out and couldn't get to that point where they were good enough. Of the 14 players that were drafted, 7 of them went in the first round, so a pretty high percentage of first-round picks. And then we had only 3 players make it to a 5th year. A lot of these players were cycling in and out. Some of them even declared after 3 seasons in college. But majority of them, 75%, became the team's eventual number 1 wide receiver, and 60% of them had at least 1 season of going over 1,000 yards. So I think overall you can deem that a pretty successful batch of players. And then finally we can take a look at the best of the best, and there were a couple of players that I really liked here. Dan Rimp, we mentioned him, +23 in overall, had a legendary playoff run, was probably the best pure receiver that we had. Nico Pineda was maybe the best prospect we have seen. For those of you who watched the Cam Childress, prospect in the running back video, I think Pineda was on that level of generational prospects. Jeremiah Wallner was kind of like a sentimental favorite. He was the one who lit up the stat sheet, set every record at Florida, won a national championship, was super successful, but wasn't good enough ultimately to get drafted. And then Jalen Marcus and Kalen Ivory were both very successful players on their own, had great seasons, and were first-round draft picks. So you can let me know who your favorite receiver was of the batch, if it was one of these 5 or maybe somebody else. And you can let me know what you thought about me kind of hopping in a little bit and throwing up the football for some of these guys so we can see them get some touches. Let me know if you want maybe more gameplay, less just kind of spectate, let whatever happens happens. Overall, any sort of feedback, what you want to see next, much appreciated. Like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff is super helpful as I continue to get these videos out. These take a lot of time to make, but I hope you all enjoy them, and I will see you guys all in the next one.